Hello, BookTube. Well, it's Monday, and that means the mail has started up again, so I thought we'd go through the mail together and see what we've got. Let's see. Of course, Monday is also the day for mail over at Thomas's channel, SFF180. That's when he does his Monday mailbag, his Mailbag Monday. Of course, you're not, I'm sure that everyone watching this channel is already subscribed to him. If you're not, you should be. His mailbags are dedicated to SFF. It's only very rarely and very hilariously when he gets something that isn't that, and his whole face sort of crimps up a bit, and then he goes to town on it because it's not you know it's not anything that he's requested. It's not anything that fits in the wheelhouse of his whole thing. But it's the one stop on BookTube for SFF stuff, and sometimes sometimes when my own mail alls are a little bit unruly, I envy that kind of focus because I never know what kind of stuff I'm gonna get. But let's see, like this first one here. So yeah, this is something I could easily picture showing up on his channel. This is How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. The requisite ugly American cover. Who is he when he's at home? The author of an internationally best-selling memoir, Reasons to Stay Alive, along with 5 novels, including The Humans and The Radleys. Oh, this guy wrote The Radleys. And several award-winning children's books. Okay, and there's our author. You're a best-selling author. It would kill you to smile. Let's see here. That's sort of the tough guy equivalent of a smile, just to not smile. So this comes out soon, February, yes, early February. A runaway bestseller in the UK with rights sold in 33 countries. Benedict Cumberbatch signed on to star in and produce its film adaptation with a screenplay by Darkest Hour's Anthony McCartan. Goodness gracious. All right, so this book has hit big without even appearing in America. The novel follows Tom Hazard, who has a dangerous secret. Lucky thing, his name is Hazard. He looks like an ordinary 41-year-old, but due to a rare genetic condition causing him to age slowly, he's been alive for centuries. From Elizabethan England to Jazz-age Paris, from New York to the South Seas, Tom has lived history and has been forced to do so reclusively, moving every 8 years to avoid suspicion. Okay, all right. Now he just wants an ordinary life. He returns home to London to become a high school history teacher and try to tame the past that is fast catching up with him. The only thing Tom must not do is fall in love. Okay, so a novel about an immortal who moves every 7 or 8 years to avoid suspicion. I have read this book before, but we'll see it, you know, because that doesn't matter. What matters is what the job the author does with it. I can, just as a side note, I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, he does not need to move every 7 or 8 years. He doesn't need to move every 200 years. That is people, writers, science fiction writers, movie writers who imagine immortality always think, well, hey, sooner or later somebody around you would notice that you're not aging. And, you know, there'd be torches and pitchforks. No. No. People don't notice anything. But anyway, let's see. How long was it? How long was it in the Highlander movies? In the first Highlander movie, how long was it that MacLeod would wait before he would move on? I don't remember. There was an interval there too. I think it was significantly longer than 8 years. I think it was a whole lifetime. Anyway, let's see here. That was another made-up story. Okay, this is a mystery from 7th Street Books. It's due in April, and it is A Perfect Shot by Robin Yoakum. Look at that cover. Can't really make it out in my crappy lighting, but that's a nice, somber cover. Nicholas Duchesky is the most important man in eastern Ohio's steel town of Mingo Junction. Nearly 2 decades after he made the winning shot in the state championship basketball game, he remains much adored, and the focal point of community pride. Hardly a day passes when someone doesn't want to talk about the game. Boy, that rings true to the American Midwest. Now approaching 40, Duke no longer wants to be defined solely by something he did when he was 18. So he decides to parlay his local popularity into a successful restaurant, Duke's Place. But no sooner does he get his restaurant up and running than disaster strikes. One day, little Tony DeMarco, his brother-in-law and a known mob enforcer, comes into the restaurant and murders Duke's oldest friend. Now Duke faces the hardest decision of his life. DeMarco thinks he's untouchable, but Duke discovers a way to take him down along with his mob superiors. To do so, however, means leaving Mingo Junction and sacrificing his treasured identity as the town legend. Tell me that doesn't sound good. That sounds really good. Oh my. All right, this comes out in April. Good. Excellent. That sounds really good. It sounds like it's going to be about a lot more than just, you know, bringing a killer to justice. This is great. I always want the... It's a romance. It's Christine Feehan. It's Judgment Road. Look at that. Looks exactly like I do when I'm on a Harley. This is first in the new Torpedo Inc. series. Because tattoos are all the rage now in the contemporary romance scene. As the enforcer of the Torpedo Inc. motorcycle club. They always call it a club, not a gang. And the writers, the women who write the books about motorcycle clubs always concentrate on their codes of honor, their brotherhood, etc., and almost never on how pathetic and ridiculous they are. And dangerous, of course, and criminal. Reaper lives for riding and fighting. He's a stone-cold killer who turns his wrath on those who deserve it. Feelings are a weakness he can't afford, until a gorgeous bartender gets under his skin. Near Sea Haven, a small town of Casper has given Anya Rafferty a new lease on life, and she's desperate to hold on to her job at the biker bar, even if the scariest member of the club seems to have it in for her. But Reaper's imposing presence and smoldering looks just ratchet up the heat. Reaper sounds familiar. It says it's the first in a series, but I could swear I read a biker novel, I think by Christine Feehan, starring a character named Reaper. I could almost swear that I read that. Okay, so it looks like Sea Haven is the town, and she's written a whole series of books set in Sea Haven. I wonder if he's appeared in one of those books. That's probably the case. If I were to take a minute, which is unthinkable on a video that's already going to be hideously long, I could call it all up. Who that was and when it was. I'm almost remembering. Reaper is in the title of the book. Anyway, so it's a romance. That's great. And then we'll move on here. I don't know if I mentioned this ends in not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 boxes. So there's something to pay you off for your tedium. Okay. This is by Winnie Anderson. It is called Phoebes Herrick. And it's from Crispin Books. Seems almost self-published. Wow, when I used to be the U.S. and worldwide editor for the Historical Novel Review, online, the indie branch, I got books like this in the mail all the time. Now I never do because I'm not with Historical Novel Review anymore. Sort of got crowded out of the schedule. This looks very much like something I would have got there. It's really nicely done for a self-published book. Phoebe's Herrick, the story of 12-year-old Phoebe Greer, is set in Colorado in 1900. I wonder if the author of this thing thinks that I'm still with the Historical Novel Review. No note from them, no nothing. Okay, well, all right, so it's a historical novel about 19th century Colorado. It's due in February. Certainly read it. I'll certainly read it. I read a lot of great books from the Historical Novel Society. Now we get to the boxes. Let's see what we have for boxes. And the bouncy cam. So, what is this first one? Oh, okay. This is by Elizabeth Asprink, and this is 1947, When Now Begins. Which is just gold lettering up there. It's trying to tell me something, but I can hardly read it. English Pen Award winner. Okay. In the aftermath of World War II, the world shudders for a number of reasons. People try to find their way back to homes that are no longer there, or on to an uncertain future across the ocean. Some run from their deeds, and most get away. Among the millions across Europe looking for a new home is Elizabeth Aspring's father, a 10-year-old Hungarian Jewish boy in a refugee camp. The year 1947 marks a turning point in Europe, the Middle East, South Asia, and the United States. The division of Germany sets off the Cold War. The CIA is established. A UN committee is given 4 months to find a solution to the problem of Palestine. Production begins on the Kalashnikov. The first computer bug is discovered. Simone de Beauvoir meets the love of her life in Chicago, and ill George Orwell is writing his last book, and Christian Dior introduces the hyper-feminine new look as women are forced out of jobs and back into the home. Okay, that does sound energetic. I think I've mentioned on this channel many times before that I don't really like keyhole histories, single year histories, single idea histories, things where when such and such began is always the subtitle, and I tend to have very little faith, very little patience with them, because history is all about context, and that's what has to go off the side of the canoe right away in a book like this, is context. In order to concentrate granularly on the events of one year, you sort of have to strip away context. That always bugs me. I never understand why, if you're going to write a book 1947, when now began, you could make the same case for 1948 or for 1946. So, you know, why not do that? Why not write a bigger, sweeping book about the late 40s? And so that you're not sacrificing context. But let's see who she is when she's at home. We now know one thing about her, which we know about her family. She's a journalist and author from Sweden. Her second book, Jumpin' Jehoshaphat. That must be Swedish. I wouldn't hesitate. I wouldn't risk saying it at all. Oh my God. Her second book received worldwide attention for revealing new information about IKEA founder Ingvar Kamprad's ties to Nazism. Oh, but you only have to take one look at IKEA furniture to know that. Okay, great. Well, so this is translated from the Swedish. All right, so it's a micro history, but I'll give it a try anyway. I mean, there's an intriguing personal element there. Let's see what this next one is. Okay, this is not requested by me. Comes with no paperback, no paperwork, and it's a $15 paperback. So I don't see that I'm going to be reviewing this. It's by Jasmine Gilroy, and it's called The Wedding Date. Kind of a pretty thing. What have we got here, though? Agreeing to go to a wedding with a guy she gets stuck with in an elevator is something Alexa Monroe wouldn't normally do. If you would do it at all, you would normally do it. She's definitely not the spontaneous type, but there's something about Drew Nichols that's too hard to resist. Drew has never found it hard to meet women or to know just when to leave them. But now, on the eve of his ex's wedding festivities, he's minus a +1 until a power outage strands him with the perfect candidate for a fake girlfriend. From the best man's toast to the bouquet toss, Alexa and Drew have more fun than they ever thought possible. But before they knew it, Drew has to fly back to Los Angeles, and his job is a pediatric surgeon. Yes, of course. Yes, you're a pediatric surgeon, Drew. Of course you are. And Alexa heads off home to Berkeley, where she's the mayor's chief of staff. Okay, all right. And neither of them can stop to think about the other. They're just two high-powered professionals on a collision course toward the long-distance dating disaster of the century. Or closing the gap between what they think they need and what they truly want. Oh. Okay, all right. Yes, of course. All right. I believe I was mentioning at the beginning of this video, I envy the fact that Thomas's mail halls are so well behaved. Okay, let's forge ahead here. We have a little while to go here. We have 2 more. Yes, of course. pediatric surgeon who goes to weddings with women he meets in the elevators. Of course. And I can say that about every pediatric surgeon I've ever known. Oh, wow. Okay, great. Okay, great. This is, talk about a tonal shift. This is In Broad Daylight by Father Patrick Desbois. The subtitle is The Secret Procedures Behind the Holocaust by Bullets. And that's a reference, that's a call out to his first book, The Holocaust by Bullets, which I didn't know about. I learned about this book and wanted it, of course, wanted a copy right away, and didn't know about the first book. And so, of course, I thought, well, you've got the second one coming to you. Publishers are really nice. Do you want to ask for the first one? So I read up on the first one. It sounds utterly fantastic, and I have no idea how I missed it. I have no idea how this guy's been writing iconoclastic, penetrating studies of the Holocaust, and me not knowing anything about it. It goes to show you. That's all. But I was curious to know who he was. He is the president of Yahad in Unum. Oh, God. Rachel Morrow's going to kill me. He's the president of Yahad in Unum, founded with Cardinal Lustiger, Archbishop of Paris, and Israel Singer, chairman of the World Jewish Congress, and holds an endowed professorship at Georgetown University. He is the author of The Holocaust by Bullets, winner of the 2008 National Jewish Book Award, and has received numerous honors, including the Humanitarian Award for the U.S. Holocaust Museum and the 2017 Lantos Human Rights Prize. And let me see. Read a bit of this here. In The Holocaust by Bullets, Father Desbois documented for the first time the murder of 1.5 million Jews in Ukraine during World War II, based on wartime documents, interviews with locals, and the application of modern forensic practices on long-hidden grave sites. Nearly a decade of further work by his team, drawing on interviews with 4,000 neighbors of the Jews, has resulted in stunning new findings about the extent and nature of the genocide, which is this book. In Broad Daylight documents mass killings in 7 countries formerly part of the Soviet Union that were invaded by Nazi Germany. It shows how these murders followed a template, which included a timetable that was duplicated from place to place. Far from being kept secret, the killings were done in broad daylight and deliberately involved the local inhabitants in the mechanics of death. Whether it was to cook for the killers, to dig or cover the graves, to witness their Jewish neighbors being marched off, or to take part in the slaughter. The Nazis availed themselves of local structures and people in order to make the Eastern Holocaust happen. Okay. So I eventually did ask the publicist for a copy of Holocaust by Bullets, and she said it'd be no problem. I'm going to wait on it before I read this thing. It's not going to be easy to do because I want to read this right away. But I get the impression that I should probably read the first book first. And in a case like that, where you're asking for something, they have to go to the warehouse, they have to requisition it, get it sent out, and there's infinite possibilities for mistakes, so it takes longer. So I don't. We've got one box left here. I don't think this is going to be a Holocaust by Bullets. It'll be something else. I'll just have to wait for it. But that is getting a priority once I do get the first book. I'll read them back to back. As soon as the first book gets here. Let's see what we have here, though. This is a big thing, thick thing, and it sounds like there's rattling around going on. This might be more than one book. It is more than one book, and they're Penguin classics. Okay, all right. Okay, so Penguin is doing, I think I mentioned this already, Penguin is doing, they're rolling out, I think it's half a dozen new editions of classics of black literature in time for Black History Month. And they're beautiful. And I've read 2 of the introductions so far, and those are amazing. And it's just It's one of the things that I love. I mean, I love everything, obviously. I love everything about Penguin Classics, but I especially love in the last 10 years they have sort of embraced the broader dimensions of what you can do curatorially, what you can do as a major reprint house to a stunning effect. And this is one of those times. So look at this. This is George Tyler. This is Black No More. Look at that. Just, oh. And then what have we got here? Oh, okay. This is a new edition of The Souls of Black Folk. Wow, what a cover. Look at that. Wow. Okay, then Passing by Noah Larson. That is another great cover. And Not Without Laughter by Langston Hughes. And this will have the pub sheet for all of them. Great. Yeah, there we go. There's going to be 6 of them. Great. Fantastic. So the only one that I'm missing is Amiable with Big Teeth by Claude McKay, which is a great big thing, and came out, I think, 2 years ago. As a non-Penguin, I mean, it came out. A new edition of it came out, I think, 2 years ago. So that's the only one that I don't have so far. I have all the rest of these. Interesting. Yeah, this is a big, big publicity thing. Great. Fantastic. Okay. All right. Well, okay. So that is our mail haul. And as you can tell already, especially if you're familiar with this channel, it hits some Steve buttons. There was a self-published historical fiction, which certainly hits a button of mine. There was a romance. There was a box full of Penguin Classics. And there was some history, including Holocaust history. So let's make a... So we've got, in broad daylight, The Secret Procedures Behind the Holocaust by Bullets. 1947, when Now began. Let's see here. What else have we got? How to Stop Time, about an immortal man. Phoebes Herrick, historical novel that looks semi-self-published. The Wedding Date, high-powered professionals hooking up in elevators. A Perfect Shot by Robin Yoakum. About what a fascinating premise. A small-town hero who that's all he's got. Do you sacrifice that in order to do right? Amazing. I can't wait to read it. I hope it lives up to the premise. Then we've got 4 black classics in beautiful new Penguin editions. Just fantastic. And last, but certainly not least, Judgment Road by Christine Feehan. But a sultry, sexy motorcycle bike rider. And there you go. That's a sloppy, ill-behaved male. I'll wrap it up here, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.